Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. How are you guys? Hope everything's going nicely. Tell you what, it's bloody hot as anything today. I'm just like sitting here, aircon on. Yeah, I'm filming this on Sunday, so if you're in Victoria, it's a stinker. Like what sort of weather are you want to run with here? It's like, it feels like it's nearly 40. Like, it only says 34, but gee, it feels worse than that. Look, back into work. I work at a school, so I had a nice break, school holidays, working the wellbeing team. So, tell you what, it was absolute whirlwind going back. Just so much goes on in some of the students' lives over 6 weeks. I was just like, went from doing nothing for like 6 or 7 weeks, just potting around home, doing a few odd jobs, just doing whatever, to just, right back into the thick of it. So, my brain's feeling a little bit fried this weekend, I must admit. It's been a pretty low-key one. Just resetting, just trying to get back into it. But I thought, look, today's hot, absolute stinker of a day, bit of an inside day, so I thought, it might be good to just do a bit of a video. And I've still got one team preview to finish off, but look, it's crazy. Like, we're not far from the start of the year. It's nuts. Like, you sort of feel like February's a real, we're building up. And in the past it was when games in round one had started in March 20, but March 6. I know this week doesn't count for us in SuperCoach, but there's no mucking around. We'll be having match sim, intra-club, actual, unofficial, and official practice matches. It'll all be going on in a couple of weeks, so I'm looking forward to it. And I just wanted to touch base around some mid-forwards, because I've done some YouTube shorts and TikToks around this, but of course, and I've got no idea how to spell his name. Butchered the last name as well, but of course Filippo going out was an absolute shocker for our sides. He was very popular, and not just for a SuperCoach, but for St Kilda in general, because they were so excited about this young kid really starting to establish himself at the top level. Showed some good signs in the midfield, and he goes straight out at our teams now because he's going to miss the start of the season. So I will discuss a little bit of some replacements for him, and I'm sure you've already replaced it because this is, somewhat old news now, but I just wanted to touch on it and just also talk about another mid forward, and, it's not Adam Treloar, of course, but his injury now does impact some others, and look, I think he's going to miss the start of the season. I mean, who knows? He could miss a really extended period of time, like 8 to 10 with a calf. You feel like that's got to be closer to 10 for someone with the injury history of him. And look, for me, and I'll talk about him a bit more in a sec, but that really brings Riley Sanders into the frame. And to a lesser extent, and I'm not that excited about Matt Kennedy, but it does bring him into the mix as well. It sort of is a guy that has shown the ability, when given inside mid-time, that he can actually score somewhat well, but he's a bit more expensive, so it's a bit more awkwardly priced. But yeah, we'll also go live on Wednesday, so we'll look to get back to that routine of doing the Wednesdays and building up to the pre-season. I normally only did the lives like in season, but I sort of feel like, there's a real demand, like, you can sort of sense the interest in SuperCoach really building up, and I thought, let's jump on the live. So Wednesday, not really sure from a time point of view. Like, it'll be around 7 o'clock, whether I'm live on TikTok at that point or YouTube, like anywhere from 7 to 7:30, I'll be jumping on YouTube live. So yeah, feel free to chuck any questions my way. Chuck them in the comments as well. I do get round to those, whether it's every week or so. I'll look to get to them a bit more frequently now because they are starting to come in. But it's good to be back. It's the most exciting part of the SuperCoach season. I mean, anything's possible at this point. We are crystal balling about all these different positions and what could be. Could they break out? Could they get this opportunity in the midfield? So it's exciting because once the season does start, sometimes reality hits and we're like, Jesus, we've got that wrong, or he's injured, or now I've got to do this, I can't do that. It can get frustrating, but yeah, it's my favourite time of year for SuperCoach. So let's take a look at a few of those fellas I've just mentioned. All right, I'm going to take a look at Filippo. No, I'll take a look at the potential dogs, I reckon, and we've just cleared my side just to keep a bit of anticipation. I'll get out of there, Levi, you filthy little flex. But just keeping a little bit of anticipation for my sides when I do little team updates and whatnot. But let's have a look at some replacements. Well, not necessarily replacements, but given Treloar goes out, there's definite opportunity for those midfield minutes to be filled by someone. And it looks like Sanders, he was a guy that I was already a bit excited about, but I just felt like he might find it difficult to even get an opportunity. The midfield for the Dogs, definitely Bont's in there, Libber's in there. They really liked Ed Richards in there towards the end of the season. And then, of course, Treloar was there most in their midfield because obviously Bont would sometimes go forward as well. I think there's a possibility Bont plays a little bit forward at the start of the year too, given the uncertainty around Dramara. But look, we'll wait and see what happens with Ugle-Hagan there. Now, Sanders, minimal game time, minimal centre bounce time. He was really made to earn it. Beveridge put him back to the twos at times, and he was certainly bevoed, as they would say. But some of his numbers are just too good for that level. Like, look at this. He had a 42, a 39, a 35. Like, look at this. Those numbers are huge. So he's too good for that level. And I think when we sort of talk about those guys that have dominated their juniors, they've been touted as superstars for years. Your Will Ashcrofts, your Nick Dacos's, those type of guys, Harry Sheasel. I feel like Riley Sanders is actually in that conversation. If he gets opportunity, I think he's the sort of guy that can just win plenty to the footy, be creative with his ball use, tough in and under, but also elusive enough to sidestep and work his way out of traffic. I've got a lot of time for him. Now, last time I checked, he was in about 6% of side, so that was a few days ago. I wonder if there's been a bit of a movement for him getting a bit more popular. I think he's like 340, 339. So he's in 7% now, so I guess a few people are chucking him in, but nothing drastic. I suppose a lot of us, for a lot of us it'll be Horn Francis, it'll be McRae, it'll be Caleb Daniel, and it was Filippo. It'll be Bailey Smith in there too. So then you're probably filling it out with 3 rookies or whatnot. So then I guess your question is it going to be Luke Parker, or is it a Shea Bolton that comes into consideration at a bit of a cheaper price? Is it Sanders? So look, it definitely could be. For me, like, he's got that dual position as well. For me, we've just got to wait and see for the practice games. Beveridge is a guy that has done us dirty many, many times. I feel like the time's now for Sanders. He's done a bit of an apprenticeship in the twos, but he's class. Like, he's all class, and all the big footy threads that I'm reading about pre-season training of the Dogs is he's looking good. He is looking good, and I know everyone looks good in the pre-season, but he's getting mentions when others aren't. And he's probably going to be 4th in line, so that can still get you a bit of midfield time, because the Dogs do like to have predominantly, Libber in there and Treloar in there a lot of the time, and Bontempelli in there a lot of the time. So one of their mainstays is out. I think Ed Richards will definitely fill a fair bit of that gap. But then you've got a 4th in line option waiting to be done. And I think Sanders versus Kennedy is a very real option. I mean, I think there's probably some others that may come into that consideration that I'm not 100% sure which of them that would be. But if you look at the way the Dogs line up, for being 4th in line in that midfield, that can still easily give you close to 50%, sometimes more, centre bounce time. If you look at some of these numbers, often the 4th one will still get around 40%, sometimes a bit more. So he should get opportunity. It's all in the pre-season for him. He's a guy that I really do rate quite highly, and he's a big watch for mine. Currently not in my team, but I think he's a big watch. Like I said off the top, Kennedy I'm not as interested in, just on the price. I think at 414, I just don't think there's enough meat on that bone to tempt me. Sanders is like a guy on the absolute rise. He could just come in with an absolute rush and establish himself. Kennedy's probably more that grunt player who could just play a role. And I think with a guy like Treloar, they may like to see a bit of grunt from him and a bit more of a grunt operator. But he's a fella that has often been involved in the centre bounces, and then he'll often play forward as well. So he does have that ability to play both positions. Now, when did he get some opportunity? Let's take a look at round 7, round 9 and 10 and 15. The only games where he had more than 65%. So what was that? 7, 9, 10 and 15. 7, he had some good numbers, scored 89. Decent numbers, scored 83. Bit quieter there, 77. What did he do in round 15? 31 and 116. So, look, I think if he does get this midfield role, and that's an extremely small sample size, let's have a look at some other years as well, because he has done it before where you'll just see him in the centre bounce more often, and he has some good games. Like, he's been a handy draft pickup for me at times. I don't know, let's take his run from round 9 to 16 in 23. A bit of a rough look at it. What was it, round 9 to 16? 9 to 16, 27, 22. Yes, look, he only turned up once. So, yeah, look, I'm not as excited about him. That's clear. But I think there is a world where he does actually get a fair bit of time in the midfield and plays forward as well, because I think they like him as that option. And like I said, with Jamara, they may need some other types there. So one that I'm definitely not considering, because I think you've got Bolton pretty close by, 416. So it's almost like Kennedy versus Bolton. You definitely go Bolton. It's almost like Sanders versus someone like Luke Parker. People are clearly going Luke Parker. And for what it's worth, I'm not that keen on him, but he's actually been getting a bit of midfield time in the match sim in the centre bounce, which I guess isn't a shock, but I was thinking he probably would be a bit more mentor type of role, but maybe he's getting some real opportunities. So one to keep an eye on there as well. I think in terms of replacing Filippo, they're probably the guys that you're talking about, really. So I suppose both conversations kind of mould into one, don't they? I'll expand on a few options, because clearly like for like, and you would have already made your decision already because it is a bit old news, but is Rochelle getting much love? No. He's a bit of a hype guy, isn't he? But who was he, like 313 or something? Yeah, so look, from memory, there wasn't really anyone below him that you'd go, unless you're going all the way down to a rookie. And then in and around him, yeah, clearly you're just assuming everyone has Daniel and everyone has McRae and Smith. I think, yeah, you're probably looking at Sanders, you're probably looking at Luke Parker. It feels like quite a few went up to Luke Parker. And then there's not too many others. But yeah, we'll just, I'll tell you what I did, and then we'll wind this one up. So basically, you've got three options. You're either downgrading Filippo, using that cash elsewhere, downgrade him to a rookie, whether it's Lynch or Hewitt or Kako or Curtin. There's a whole range of them. Or you're going like for like we touched. It's probably Luke Parker. It's only 30-odd K difference. Or you're going all the way up, and this would obviously involve a change in another position. Maybe it's just a change in some rookie options. Maybe you just cut like a Lawler or someone, Josh Smiley, who just pinged a hamstring, and you had a little bit of cash, and that opens up 100k, and you can get Bolton. Or you could go all the way up, and I think everyone's got Horn Francis. But I'll tell you what, Isaac Rankin, I am all about him. Oh, someone mentioned in the comments that he hurt his ankle. I don't know. I haven't seen it reported. Injury scare. Rankin went down early session after hurting his ankle. Look, I feel like it's not big news, but I might just have a look at that, actually. But he is flying this pre-season. I just think it's all in the body for mine. Clearly, that's the only risk for me. This guy is a 105-plus player if he is fit. It's as simple as that for me. Are they even going to talk about it? Come on, man. Don't like this Crows logo either, for what it's worth. Don't know. Anyway, there's probably more to that, but So, yeah, I think Rankin's going to get more midfield time. If he gets a serious run at it, look out. He should be in much more than 19% of teams. But, yeah, he is in my team for what it's worth. So, that was already someone I had before Filippo going out. So, what I did, Filippo went down to, I think it was more or less a placeholder. I think it was Connor Stone or Aiden Johnson. Like, it doesn't really matter at this point. Rookies will show himself. And then that money allowed me to go Colby McKercher, who I've just got a bit nervous on. We're hearing this talk that he's training in the forwards group, and Zach Fisher is remaining at half-back alongside Caleb Daniel, and that's on top of the worries that McKercher could play wing and a little bit midfield. Then Wardlaw goes down. Does that change? So I'm just not sure, and I just want to see where McKercher actually lands in his position. But in the meantime, that extra cash saw me go up to Dan Houston. And I know he's missing round 0. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt our overall score. I just think Houston is one of the... He's got Luke Ryan vibes for me this year. Like, I just think clearly they're different players, but I'm seeing just career best year for Houston this year. Like, a guy that's consistently been high 90s and pushed 110. I'm seeing Houston going 115 around there. And I think similar to Luke Ryan, he's a guy that's been as honest as the day is long, but we don't always consider him, very consistent. I'm seeing him upping his average by anywhere from 8 to 10 points. I just think being the main guy off half back, occasionally off the back of a stoppage as well, rolling up, I think they'll use him as an outlet all the time, out of a clearance, kick-ins, switching the play. I just think he's going to be really, really dominant for Collingwood. And that's the way I went. So, yeah, pretty much that's my approach. There's a bit to think about with our mid-prices in the forward line now. I feel like for most of us, we'll end up having the same 4 or 5 players in the forward line. There'll just be 1 or 2 differences. So, probably the most part of our teams will see difference probably through the midfield. Maybe a little bit through the back line. A lot of people will have Mills and Sheasel and the like. So, as always, start of the year, teams are quite similar. That's why I would make a few changes to address that, but we continue on. So, yeah, I'll certainly have a team update video coming to you pretty soon. Like I said, we'll go live on Wednesday night around 7 o'clock, give or take. And, hopefully you can get along and we can have a chat then. But, yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.